evening, happy Sunday. Welcome back to the channel. And something that isn't too common nowadays, we have a Sunday show. Games Workshop are chucking 10th edition rules at us thick and fast. So we've had to do a whole bonus show to cover some of the rules that's coming up for 10th edition. Still on the whole super positive on the 10th edition wavy chart thing of negative to positive. We're still pretty much all the way in the positive end right now. And the vehicle rules, I've seen some negativity around them, but they don't really change that, actually. They don't really change that. Pretty much still positive, in my opinion, from GW. Okay? We're going to go through them. We're going to read through it. First of all, if you're new here, please hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. YouTube shows us over 30% of people that watch our content are not subscribed, and it's free and it's easy. You just click done. Doesn't cost you anything. Do it for us, please. You legends. Otherwise, don't forget to hit that magical like button for us and all the other bits and bobs that come as standard. And if you want to support the channel, there's many ways you can do that. You can become a member, come and join us in the Great Hall. You can super chat, or you can give memberships. And a big shout out to Mockzilla, who became a member today at 113 and at 122 upgraded his membership to Scald. What an absolute fucking hero and legend he is. Thank you so much, you wonderful human being. I say he. I've made an assumption now. I have no idea. But what a beautiful human. Thank you for joining us. Anyway, today we are going to be talking about the vehicle rules that were showcased on Thursday last week for 10th edition Warhamster 40k, and have a chat about how we think it fits, whether it's decent, whether we're happy, whether we don't like it. Spoiler, I actually quite like this at the moment. Like I said, I've seen a little bit of negativity. I'm quite happy about this right now. We'll talk about it, however. Let's screen share. Boop. So here we go. Vehicles are now even tougher in the new edition of Warhammer 40k. There are a few new things in the 41st millennium. There are few things in the 41st millennium as terrifying as a headlong assault by waves of heavily armoured tanks, which is why forces like the Astra Militarum love them so much. But recently, armoured vehicles have been struggling to keep up with the relentless firepower the average Warhammer 40,000 army can throw around. So one major focus in the new edition has been to make those units that should feel tough more meaningfully durable. And that mentality starts with tanks. Okay, almost every vehicle has received a bump in toughness. So while toughness 9 used to be the highest you'd ever see in a game, in the new edition, you can find units like Orc Stomper with toughness as high as 14. 14. Strength 7 would be wounding that on 6s, where it used to wound vehicles on 4s. That's mad, right? All the new weapons in the game, all weapons in the game have been recalibrated to fit into this new scale, and we'll be talking about those tomorrow. We've already done the weapon thing looking at Melter, right? So this came out before the weapon thing when we learned that, oh, Melter's gone up to strength 9. But a base Rhino is now toughness 9. Melter used to be strength 8, and a base Rhino used to be toughness 7. Methinks are trying to push Melter into a different category, a different tool for your toolbox, and that perhaps it's only really big weapons that are going to be frightening to tanks. If, for example, a last cannon remains strength 9, it's wounding a Rhino on a 4+. That's not something I thought I'd ever expect. I'm not sure whether last cannons might also get a slight bump in strength to give them purpose over Melter, because at the moment, if you had Melter or last cannon choice, you just take Melter. Better AP, more chance of higher damage if you get within a certain range. Typically assault, you know, I don't know why you take last cannon. So this is an interesting, like, it looks like they're going to try and differentiate. They said recalibrate weapons, right? It looks like they're going to try and differentiate what weapons are for what. We'll see how that works. So Rhino now, on its data sheet, is toughness 9, 12-inch move, toughness 9, 3-up save, 10 wounds, a leadership of 6+. This is an interesting thing for me. I don't know if they talk about this lots, but objective control 2. A Terminator unit is objective control 1, but a Rhino's objective control 2. That's interesting, right? The Hunter-Killer Missile, which is a one-shot weapon, always has been, 48-inch range, 1 attack, ballistic skill 2+ now, so hits on 2s. Strength 14, interesting. AP -3, and D6 damage. Strength 14 would indicate that there are some light vehicles in the game that are still toughness 7, because, and I would assume there will be things like Harlequin transports and stuff as an assumption. This will still wound them on, this will now wound them on 2s, which, okay, cool. It's a Hunter-Killer Missile, it's a one-shot weapon. We then got Stormbolter, which is rapid fire 2, so 2 shots at 24, 4 shots at 12, ballistic skill 3+, strength 4, AP nothing, 1 damage, no change there. And here's another interesting change for vehicles, right? Armoured Tracks, 3 attacks melee, weapon skill 4+, strength 6, AP nothing, 1 damage. Interesting that even a Rhino now has a relatively reasonable melee profile. Again, I think this is good. Tanks should be able to run shit over. I miss the old days of tank shock, right? Core, deadly demise D3, firing deck 2 is something new that they'll talk about in just a moment as well. Faction oath of moment, self-repair. At the end of your command phase, this model regains 1 lost wound. Remember how you used to gain lost wound if you rolled a 6? Now it just does it. Again, Rhinos, which are already pretty core and pretty clutch in Space Marine armies in general anyway, just got a little bit better, right? Coming out of the gate with a toughness score to match the Titans of old, the reinforced Rhino actually sits towards the bottom end of the pool of hardy Space Marines vehicles. Its new toughness of 9 leaves it significantly less vulnerable to most infantry portable weapons, even metal gun blasts.
I want to see more about my knights. I want to see if they'll actually be slightly more survivable. I want my knights to feel more like knights.
I think everyone wants knights to feel more like knights, Scott. 100% agree with you. Right? Here's the interesting thing about this one as well. Okay, this bit that it says here. Leaving it significantly less vulnerable to most infantry portable weapons, even melter gun blasts. Now, I'm wondering if we're gone are the days where a melter gun and a multi-melter and etc. are all strength 8. So I wonder now if a melter gun is strength 8 and a multi-melter, or a melter gun strength 9 and a multi-melter might be strength 10 and etc. etc. right? Perhaps they're going to actually differentiate between the different types of melter. Having said that, a multi-melter is still infantry portable, and maybe that's where the distinction is going to lie in the future. Who knows? At the same time, the Rhino receives 2 core abilities common across many factions. Deadly Demise and Firing Deck. The first of these dictates how many mortal wounds are suffered by nearby units when a vehicle explodes. This double asterisk at the bottom specifically states, same as always, you roll a 6 once it's destroyed, and if you roll a 6, it does explode. And this has Deadly Demise D3, which means if it explodes, it does D3 mortal wounds, okay? While the second shows how many embarked models can shoot from inside a transport. Both rules have previously existed in many different forms and now condensed into core abilities for clarity. Interestingly, Rhinos, you never used to be able to shoot out of it if you're in the transport. Firing Deck 2, now 2 models embarked within your Rhino. Two Space Marines embarked within your Rhino can shoot out of this. That's quite good. You'll also notice that most vehicles have an OC, objective control, of more than 1, meaning that ramming a depleted enemy infantry squad to muscle them off of an objective is an entirely legitimate tactic. So when I saw Objective Control 2, I was quite excited. There's a couple of little things which make me a bit wary of this, but because I think this could just create vehicle meta. But I want tanks to be better because I'm a tank person and I like tanks. What I don't want to do is get to a point where Warhammer 40k 10th edition is just tanks versus tanks all the time. I think that would make me sad. I like the good infantry game, right? All of this means there's now a lot more nuance to individual tanks, and vehicles all carve out a niche in their own factions. Rest assured, though, the majority of vehicles and monsters are beefier than before. This is something I'm so happy about, because too many times you'll deploy a cool vehicle or a cool tank, and because of the killiness of 40k at the moment, it's one shot off the board before you have any chance to do anything about it. So fingers crossed, if you take 2 or 3 vehicles, they should last a couple of turns at least. Welcome everybody who's joining us, by the way, in the stream. Thank you so much for hanging out. Please make sure you hit those magical buttons, right? We're still not recommending staying out in the open against concentrated railgun fire, but you should find your armoured behemoths, make it through more firefights, and can form a solid bastion in your army. To prove the point, here are a few more examples from the Space Marine roster. This is one that I found was interesting. Storm Speeder. Right, Storm Speeder is a Primaris land speeder. And that's toughness 9 as well. Like, I kind of expected the Storm Speeder to be toughness 8 if the Rhino was toughness 9. Movement 14, save 3 plus 11 wounds, leadership 6. Objective controlled 3 is interesting. Objective controlled 3 is very interesting. Right? Gladiator Valiant, toughness 10. Okay, that makes sense, making it slightly tougher than a Rhino. Okay, with that one. Movement 10, save 3 plus, wounds 12, leadership 6. Objective controlled 3 as well. Okay, so it looks like things like Predators and Valiants are objective controlled 3. It's interesting that these are the same. And then we go to the Repulsor. It's toughness 12, save 3 plus, 16 wounds, 6 plus leadership, objective controlled 5. Not sure how I feel about this. Now, granted, I don't entirely know how the objective controlled rule is going to work. So Terminators, for example, are objective controlled 1. Now, my assumption is, and this is a complete assumption, chat, right? I might be wildly wide with this one, but here's my assumption. You take the objective controlled figure and you times it by the number of models in the unit, and that is how much they control an objective. So my assumption is 5 Terminators with an objective control of 1 will count as 5, which means now if you park a repulsor on it as your opponent, you then are tied on that objective. An assumption. It's just an assumption. It means if intercessors are objective control 2 and you have 5 of them, they're worth 10. If you then park your repulsor on it, you still hold it as 5 intercessors. Again, an assumption based on no facts apart from we have an objective controlled figure and it tells us how many things hold an objective. That's it, right? A lot of vehicles used to suffer from characteristics that degraded as they took damage. Most of those now simply suffer a penalty to their hit rolls when reduced to 1/3 of their starting wounds, leaving big vehicles and monsters in the fight to the last. And many vehicles don't degrade at all. We intentionally wanted you to only keep these when they felt meaningful. I kind of like this, actually. Degrading is often a bit of a feels bad to a point. Come back tomorrow to find how about weapons check. We did that already, right? And then it goes, granted, not much can reach those lofty heights. That's talking about toughness 14 on the Stomper, which is interesting. So not everything, not loads of things, going to be toughness 14. So it'll be interesting. If a repulsor's toughness 12, it'll be interesting to see, for example, where an Imperial Knight sits. Does an Imperial Knight also sit at toughness 12? Or does that come up to the toughness 14 like a Stomper? Or is there even a toughness 13 in between? Interesting. In the meantime, big shout out to Christian who gifted 5 and Nord who gifted a membership. You people are amazing. You people keep me in a home and in a job. So thank you so much. Right? 3 people on a land speeder, 5 people man a repulsor due to weapons and so on. I mean, it could. Maybe that's the logic behind it partly. Maybe it's partly to do with the how many people crew the vehicle, I guess. But I don't know. So the Stomper might actually get into combat. It's possible. Wonder how living demon engines work then. Well, if they're the same toughness as a Rhino, War Master Will, I'll be very disappointed. Very disappointed indeed. We'll see, right? The repulsor should have 5 objective control if it has units inside it, but maybe 3 empty. I mean, I don't I like that as a concept, but perhaps it's a bit like there's too much to remember. Maybe. Your assumption was officially confirmed a long time ago. Oh, right, is it? I've missed that in an article. Brilliant, cool, okay. I wanted to be super clear that it was just an assumption I didn't know. However, if that is the case, beautiful. It makes more sense then, and I'm happier with it. If it means that each model is worth that objective control and you add it or add it all together, that's actually not that bad, right? That's not that bad. I'm kind of happy with that at the moment. The Chaos Land Raider's toughness 9 at the moment, so toughness 14 in 10th. I reckon they'll all go to toughness 12, much like the repulsor, if I'm honest with you. Has Cass been stitched up yet? No, I haven't done the draw yet. I wanted to make sure we if you're a Thane, by the way, and you haven't already done this, all the Thanes and the Only Thanes WhatsApp chat, I found this that I hadn't used, so I decided to give it away to one of our Thanes. I do lots of little things for Thanes every now and again. And Cass wants it, and he never wins anything. I think we've currently got 9 people entered into this giveaway who are Thanes. So, you know, if you're a Thane and you want in and you haven't seen the WhatsApp chat, then go have a look at the WhatsApp chat and get yourself in it, right? But yeah, I mean, you know, if that's how objective control works, that's actually kind of cool. Now, we've seen, to a point, things like Lehman Russes recently be more tough to kill with what they did with them in the Codex. They're not impossible to destroy. They push them to 13 wounds. I think typically, so things like railguns struggle to one-shot them, or the heavy rail cannon things that the Votan have struggle to one-shot them because they're 13 wounds. But if you did do the max 12 damage, then actually you're going to severely cripple them.
Maybe with D6 damage and melter rifles losing 6 inches of range, the choice of las cannons is the range and they could gain more consistent damage. D6 plus 2 at all times like Soul Shatter and Sisem.
Do you know what? I wouldn't be surprised to see las cannons go to D6 plus 2 at all times like Soul Shatter, if I'm honest with you. I think that'd be a good move for las cannons, because las cannons, I feel like specifically for loyalists, las cannons just haven't really had a place for a while. Typically because melter's just flat more reliable and better, and you can take it in lots of places. When I was younger, tactical squad with a flame and a las cannon was so common to see, and now we just don't see that anymore. So I would like to see more las cannons. Las cannons or las cannons. Las cannons are kind of a staple like favorite from 40k, right? We don't see many of them anymore, so I'd be down for that. Like, I think that'd be cool. But yeah, so, Lehman Russes have been better with the 2-up armor save, with the ability to add 1 to your save against 1 damage, with the ability to be 13 wounds so you can't be one-shot by a 12 damage weapon, etc. They've been more survivable and they've been harder to shift. And toughness 8, of course. But they're still relatively easy to drop 1 at least, at a time if you wanted to. And arguably some armies would comfortably do 2, right? Comfortably do 2 a time. So there's a possibility now that the tanks are going to be significantly more durable and will just last. I don't want them to be impossible to kill. I think they need to be killable. But I've gone on the days, hopefully, where you'll lose 2 or 3 of your favourite tanks in the first turn. The balance will simply be how they point them, right? How they point them is going to be so important. Because if Lehman Russes do go up to something like toughness 12 or 14 with a 2-up save like they currently have, if they make them one of the most durable battle tanks out there, as they currently are, I'm not saying narratively that fits, but as they currently are, then they're going to be a nightmare to shift. An absolute nightmare to shift. And then your opponent doesn't have a fun time trying to claw its way through all that armor. And the balance will be difficult here. So perhaps it is that the big, heavy tanks are going to be big, heavy, thunderous tanks that rumble across the battlefield. They're hard to take down and pack a punch, but they're more expensive in points, so you won't see loads of them. And perhaps, if they have something like a Vanquisher, I want that to be incredibly effective against other tanks, but I don't want it to be able to just flatten anything it shoots at. So I feel like there needs to be, and they've kind of started to show this with certain things, but like a punishment if you're targeting an infantry model. Like Vanquishers one-shotting a Solitaire. It's a bit of a shitty. I know Solitaire is arguably going to be protected by the new character rule. You see what I'm saying, though, right? You want anti-tank weapons to be great against tank, but pointless shooting against hordes of infantry. And you want horde of infantry weapons like Gatling cannons to be great at mowing down infantry, but terrible at dealing with armor. That's where you want it to be. How they do it, I don't know. That's a them issue. But if they can make that like that, so that everyone, if you're going to bring a take all corners list, if you're going to bring a rounded list to the tabletop, whether that's narratively or competitively, you have to think about, right, I need to make sure I can deal with a big tank. Nowadays, competitive players will tell you, right, when you go to a tournament at the moment, you have to make sure you can deal with an Imperial Knight. You have to be able to in your list. Or at least make sure that the secondaries you're choosing means you can play around the list for the whole game. And if you can either deal with an Imperial Knight a turn or play around it the whole game, then you can beat Knights. If you don't have those 2 abilities, Knights walk through you and decimate you. And Knights aren't an incredibly competitive choice. They're not bad, don't get me wrong, but incredibly competitive. What I'm hoping this means is that in the new edition, people have to think about, well, I'm going to need anti-infantry, and I'm going to need anti-tank, and I'm going to need anti-elite. And so what you don't see is spammed anti-infantry that with buckets and buckets of rerolls also are super effective against elite and against vehicles. Or spammed anti-tank that with buckets and buckets of rerolls are actually also effective against elite. You see what I'm saying? You have to take a tool for the job, and if you don't take a tool for the job, you're going to struggle to deal with the thing that tool was originally designed for. And so we see much more rounded lists, much less spam lists. That excites me. Big shout out Johnny Delay for gifting 5 of the finest memberships. Big shout out to Alex Randall who gifted another one. 14 new members already, and I've got to add these 12 to my little maths sheet thing now. Maths sheet thing. 12. 5 to 4 plus 12 is more than that. Maths, yo. Maths. Abel Alburn, was always the old problem. Anti-tank was always effective anti-character. Yeah, I mean, the character rules give me some hope there as well, right? So a cannon hits on a 3+ versus another tank and 5+ against infantry. Something like that could work. You need to keep it simple. But yeah, something like that could work. One thing I'm worried about is stuff like autocannons. Might have to go up in strength to deal with vehicles, but then they win Space Marines on 2s. So they've shown rules like anti-vehicle X or something, where the roll against a vehicle specifically, it would automatically cause what they call a critical wound, right? So a critical wound is a 6 to wound and is always a success. And so if an autocannon had anti-vehicle 4+, and it stayed at strength 7, that means that any vehicle it shoots at on a 4+ to wound, it automatically wounds that target because it's anti-vehicle 4+. Now, I'm not saying this is what they do, but this is an example of what they could do. That same strength 7 autocannon shoots a Space Marine who's toughness 4, it's still only wounding him on 3s because it's anti-vehicle 4+. And that's a way they can get round, potentially, specific anti-vehicle units being decimating against things like elite infantry and infantry. So let's say multi-melters. Multi-melters might go up to strength 9, but they might also get a special rule that says anti-vehicle 3+. Okay, which would mean that a multi-melter shooting into a toughness 6 target is still wounding on a 3+. A multi-melter, I mean, it's kind of irrelevant if it's strength 9, I guess. But you see what I'm saying? Every vehicle it shoots at, potentially, it could be a 3+ to win vehicles. Something like that is what they could do with things like autocannons to make them more effective against light armor. Autocannons should be good against light armor, though, not heavy armor specifically. And how they would differentiate that would be difficult. But if they made autocannons good against light armor without bumping its strength to 10, 11, 12, they could achieve the same thing. The problem is if they bump the strength of too many weapons, then we end up in the same place where they because they're good at wounding vehicles, they're just naturally good at wounding infantry. So the way then you potentially deal with that is reduce number of shots, for example. Potentially. Who knows? Who knows? Right? Who knows? The Chained Fist from the Terminator preview has an AT characteristic that guarantees wound of 3+, like I said, being slapped on a lot of things specifically for armor. There you go. So Nordic Gaming gets it. That's what I mean. Wait, I wasn't told math would be here. Well, if people keep gifting memberships, I have to do math. Because the thing is, right, whenever someone becomes a member of their own accord, the little bot picks it up in the top corner over here and adds it automatically. So someone became a member now by choice, that would just go up to 537 naturally. Okay. And then if someone gifts 5 members, it won't move, and I have to go into the little bot and add 5. Right? That would then be me. I have to add 5 on top. So, I want Space Wolves fully Primarisified. I actually kind of want all Space Marines fully Primarisified now. Will Chaos are getting retconned out? Don't wind him up. Looks like I'm buying that Lord of Skulls I've been avoiding for a long time. I mean, it could see play now, right? Could see play. Edwin, that kind of sounds terrible. Wounding a Rindo and a Stumper the same would be infuriating. I don't want MSU vehicle spam again. Yeah, no, exactly. And this is what I mean, Edwin, about a differentiation, right, between light armor and heavy armor and how it works. I also don't want complete vehicle spam again. Like, that's not something I'm into. And this is where perhaps the costing would become important. So, I mean, so here's where I'm at, chat, right? Here's genuinely where I'm at. Something like a Baneblade or a Shadow Sword, they're cool and I love them. But they're super heavies, right? I kind of want to see max 1 on the table at a time. And I don't really want to see them at 2,000 points, if I'm honest with you. Like, I get it. I get this is going to piss Knight players off specifically. So I know Kylo's in the chat as well. So I get that this might upset people. But a Knight on the tabletop should be terrifying. Absolutely horrifyingly terrible. So you shouldn't be able to take 3 plus armigers and fill that as a faction. Like, I feel like a Knight could be 1 to 2,000 points if you kitted it up as a terrifying Imperial Knight should be. It should be that frightening. Okay, a Baneblade or a Shadow Sword's the same. If you're playing 5,000 points aside and there's 2 Shadow Swords on the table at 1,000 points each, cool. Okay, that kind of makes sense. But if you're playing 2,000 points, I don't know how I feel about you being able to get 2 to 3 Shadow Swords in and still taking the detachment. It's just not something I want to see. And so, if you were to say you bumped a Baneblade up to 1,000 points, you could bump a Leman Russ up to 250 points. And therefore, if you take 4 Leman Russes, one is a tank commander and 3 are a squadron of 3 Russes, then you could be in a place where you have a mini tank squadron on the table with still 1,000 points to spend on your infantry. And you're going to have to spend it on your infantry because maybe your tanks can't deal with all of the Space Marines that might be deployed opposite you, potentially. You see what I'm saying? Now, I don't know how it's all going to work, and I don't know what they're going to do, but if we get to a point where you could conceivably take 10 Leman Russes, including a tank commander, have a legitimate list, be able to run Punishers, Vanquishers, Standard Battle Cannons, Plasmacutioners, then that's bad. I love the idea of running a full tank company, but I would want to be in a position where it's rock, paper, scissors rather than auto win. Does that make sense? So if I go for 10 tanks and I get lucky with my opponent, potentially I can win. That's fine. That's perfectly fine. But if I go for 10 tanks and I come up against the paper to my rock, I should lose that game. Okay, because I've gone for a rock, paper, scissors approach rather than going for a take all corners approach. Does that make sense? Are you following me? Carl of Hodgie, thank you for gifting a membership, you beautiful human. Edwin's now got one. Look at that. Good sniping. Good sniping, Carl. Thank you so much, man. You're a hero. Titans were never intended for 40k. They only appear because GW gave up on Apocalypse and glued it to normal 40k without requiring your opponent's permission. Yeah, again, I'm going to piss off the super heavy players. I personally remember an age before flyers and super heavies, and I think it was probably better. Like, I feel like super heavies should be reserved for Apocalypse, and it shouldn't be for just standard 40k. I don't want to see Knight Titans, and super heavy tanks and things like that in standard 40k personally. I don't want to see that personally, if I'm honest. Like, that's just me. I've not liked super heavies in 40k for ages. I don't typically take them. It's just not something that I think is needed in a standard tabletop. I would almost argue that flyers... I mean, flyers aren't so bad now. We don't typically see flyers because they just get flat hammered straight away because they just... And we went from a meta in 7th edition where flyers were 6s to hit and they were a nightmare to kill because they were hard to hit, 6s to hit only, to a meta where they're only -1 and actually you can stack so many positive buffs on that it doesn't really hurt you to shoot at flyers, and flyers just crumple really fast. And we need to find a middle ground for flyers if we're going to keep flyers. But even flyers on a tabletop are a weird kind of jank. When you're zoomed in to a 6x4 or 44x60 tabletop, right? When you zoomed into that size, does it make sense to have a flyer that sits that far off the ground? Flyers should be up high in the sky, fighting each other. Flyers are something that should perhaps have been kept to things like Aeronautica. I'm not sure we needed them skimming just over the surface, which is where a jet certainly wouldn't be. Like, flyers don't work for me in stat on 40k. It's like when you yeah. And nighttime, like, it just doesn't seem to make sense to me narratively, but you know, sometimes this game isn't necessarily based on narrative. Shock, I know, but shock, I know. You want balanced lists like we all do, more things viable. This is something that I'm not going to criticize GW for because it's hard. And I don't know how they do it. It would be great if a codex would come out and everything in the codex is viable.
I would honestly have a lot of fun only having 1 or 2 of my knights and have it equal 2,000 pints. I'm huge for narrative and that could be really fun.
That could be really fun, and depending on what kind of missions they give you. So if everything is still the chapter approved, take 3 secondary missions, depending on how they do that, you probably can't win with just 2 knights. So they need to balance the way that you score to be able to make that work, okay, on the whole. Where I was going with that as well is that I want... And this is a one that's never going to happen, chat, right? I'm realistic about this, at least. This isn't a moan or a complaint. I want everything in 40k to be viable in its own little niche. Everything. And I think at the moment we're not in a place where that currently exists. Not everything is viable in every codex. And typically, in certain codexes, you see just flat, obvious choices versus choices that don't see play. So I'm a big Eldar fan. Eldar are probably my favourite faction in 40k. Behind me, I've started building my Shelf of Shame, right? This is something I'm doing on stream now. So behind me today, I started adding to my Shelf of Shame, right? Bear with me. This is a new thing, by the way. It's the first I spoke about this. And behind me is 15 Howling Banshees, Jane Czar, and a kit-bashed Assurement that I made ages and ages ago. And what I've done is I've put 3 units of Banshees and 2 HQs up there. And my job now is to base coat and paint those. And you should hopefully slowly over time maybe see some process. And it will be slowly to get them on the table, right? Because I love Banshees. In a drawer, I've also got 10 of the new Dark Reapers that at the moment I have absolutely no intention of fielding because I just don't feel like they're very good as a choice compared to everything else in that codex. Now, when I look at the heavy support section of the Eldar Codex, the one that comes to mind at the moment is D-Cannons, and they're basically an auto-take if you're going to take a heavy support choice. And I don't like the fact that I don't really feel the urge to take Night Spinners, and I don't really feel the urge to take Fire Prisms, and I definitely don't feel the urge to take Falcons, and I don't really want to take the Dark Reapers. Malgan Ra came out with a beautiful new model that I really, really love. And I don't have any urge ever to build a Malgan Ra.
A Warhound Titan is 2,000 points. Should be more.
100% it should be more. But even for 2,000 points, if you put a Warhound Titan on the table at 2,000 points, it's flat garbage against anything else on the table that's 2,000 points. So even at 2,000 points, it's terrible. Like, in terms of its rules, it should probably be like 1,000 points. But in terms of what it is and what it represents, it should probably be like 3,000 points. You with me? So yeah, Malgan Ra as a Phoenix Lord is just not selectable in an Eldar Codex, really. And I'm running an Assurman, which is the old Finecast version, and I'm running a Baharoth, which is a third-party model. I'm running the new Avatar, and I'm running a Farseer. They're my 4 HQ choices that run in my Eldar right now. Okay, Assurman's a pick just because I like Assurman. I like Assurman from the book Jane Zar, funny old thing. And actually, I would happily take Assurman out and put Jane Zar in, despite the fact that she's probably a worse choice, just because I love her character and I love her model. But that's not necessarily a competitive choice, right? Arguably, the competitive choice is Avatar, Baharoth, 2 Farseers. Is arguably the competitive choice. So I want to see things like Malgan Ra and Dark Reapers to be as viable as everything else. This goes for every codex, by the way. I'm talking about Eldar because they're my favourite. But this goes for every single codex. I want every choice to be set. A Wyvern. So Wyverns were wildly popular previously for Astra Militarum. Vehicles, they might come back now because they're getting a toughness boost. But wildly popular because they had that reroll wound mechanic against infantry. Hate it because it's rerolls. You guys know my thoughts on rerolls based on Friday. But that was a very common choice against for Astra Militarum players. You flat don't see them now. They're gone. They're not a viable choice. And this is in a codex that has tons of very good choices. Like the Astra Militarum Codex is a relatively competitive codex with a ton of really good choices. Wyverns are flat auto not take in that book. So they're a swing and a miss for their rules. And I get it, right? It's super hard. Any codex with multiple data sheets, it's very, very difficult to make sure that everything is viable. And I don't think they'll ever achieve it. If I'm honest, I don't think they'll ever achieve it. I think it's impossible. What do you think? Do you think it's possible or impossible? I think it's impossible. Thank you so much, by the way, Mostly Harmless for the $2 dono. Thank you, Scott, for the 5 as well, and your 5 from earlier. And thank you, Brian Hammer, for the 10. You guys are heroes. Don't forget, 10% of all Super Chat revenue gets donated to these people. Models for Heroes gets 10% of all my Super Chat revenue after the tax man's had his go. So, takes a lot of Super Chats to pay the bills, people. Just saying. Right, Paul, do you want Jane Zar and Assurman hardback copies of their books? Have you got them? Liam, just tell us, what restaurant do you want to go to? What? What for? What, now? I don't know. What can I go to right now? So you not fielding Dark Reapers because of competitive reason then, but you say you're a narrative guy and a pretty model lover. I want to paint those Dark Reapers up, but I also love Banshees, and they're just a flat better choice right now. So still pretty models. For reference, I think Swooping Hawks are a great aspect at the moment, and I won't field them because I don't have any. Right. I have tons of unit options, but the list is very straightforward for my Black Templars. Exactly. Is Sword Brethren primarisified? Yes, they are. 100% they are. There's always going to be a top and bottom of the curve. Oh, of course there is. This is what I'm saying, Abel, right? I actually don't think it's possible, if I'm honest. I don't think it's possible to be in a place where they can make everything viable. And then you kind of rely on narrative and fun players to use units that are a bit shit, ultimately. Because I don't think they're ever going to make everything viable. And if you look at something like a Space Marine Codex with 97 data sheets...
I want my whirlwind to kill something one day.
Maybe one day. I love a whirlwind. If you look at Space Marines, there's something like 97 plus data sheets. I mean, they're never going to do that. They're never going to do that. And that's not me being harsh on them. I would never expect them to be able to balance 97 data sheets against each other. It's impossible. Kianan, thank you for gifting 5 of the finest memberships. Your hero, putting tonight's total at 20. You legend. Maths and shit. Look at that. Can we get to 600 by the end of tonight to close in on that 1,000 total for the month? 1,000 every month is what we're going for, right? End of the year, take over the world. That's what we're planning for. I think it's possible to make a codex where every datasheet has some use cases. Stuff like Razorfin strike fires that are awful in every context are inexcusable. Yeah, I agree. There's like Forge World are quite bad at this as well. Like if you look at some of the Forge World Chaos flyers, Hell Talons I think it is, one of them has got like 2 autocannons on a flyer. They're just just tripe. They're just terrible. You know, I think it's easy to make units viable through detachment systems. So a guard detachment that makes artillery better. Yeah, maybe, possibly. I'm hoping we see that kind of stuff as well, if I'm honest with you. That'd be super cool. And I want to see vehicles have a real, like, so bolt action. I like, Joe and I talk about bolt action a bit, not a lot, but a bit. I actually quite like bolt action. And if you see someone put a tiger tank or something like that on the table, it's terrifying. Having a tiger tank on the table opposite you is terrifying, right? So I want to see something like a Lehman Russ Vanquisher be almost as terrifying as a tiger tank. Now, a person in bolt action can't field 5 tiger tanks. You just can't do it. It's impossible. So they have a way of making sure they don't field tons and tons of tanks. You can take more tanks and they just run out. There's things they can do, right? There's things they can do to make a Lehman Russ a little bit more frightening to an opponent who doesn't suddenly want to roll his tank in front of that Lehman Russ with a Vanquisher cannon on it. And they're kind of there now, but you could take too many of them.
Reapers are great new models. Shame they suck.
100%, Darren, 100%. Rimney, thank you for the gifted 10, you beautiful, beautiful human. Being away, I have to make up some members. No, you don't. I mean, I appreciate it, but you don't have to. Thank you so much, man. You're a legend. I love you. Hope you're doing well. Anyway, so you've been away for a while. What have you been up to? Been on holiday? Had a break? Been building and painting models? Here's Horus. Anyone know what that hero does for a living? I swear he keeps half these channels alive on his own. Oh, okay. What's that? I think that's in response to someone said something about big bad John McArdle dropping a lot on.
I would agree and disagree. I would love to run big knights, but there is nothing in the game that does not kill big knights. Also get a hair. Smiley face.
Get a hair? You're right, though. Big knights aren't as good as they should be.
T14 Land Raiders? Will I finally be able to run a Land Raider with we/DG/SSM and not have it die first turn or actually manage to move more than 6 inches?
I mean, that's the hope, right? That's 100% the hope. Yeah, someone said about Big Bad John gifting 200 on War Games Live earlier. Let me explain to you a little bit about how gifted memberships work, okay? Gifted memberships, YouTube only lets you have gifted memberships if you've got tiers that are under $5. And then what it does is it automatically selects the tier that's closest to $5, and that's the tier that you gift at. So if you've got 2 tiers under 5, one's 2 and one's $4.99, it will pick the $4.99. If you've only got one under $5, it will pick that one. War Games Live only has, I think it's 99 cents or like $1. I think that's all it has. Okay, so John is an absolute fucking legend who keeps tons and tons and tons and tons of channels alive. But I've gifted loads on War Games Live before because it's like £1 a time to gift a membership, which is amazing. Careful if you mention Big John McDaddy, he'll turn up. No, hopefully not. You know, it's in response to, yeah, I've seen that one, right? Maybe that's what the Rogel Dawn should have been, so much better than the Lehman, but not as hard as the Baneblade. I mean, that's where it should have fitted. I actually think it kind of fits in that bracket right now, right? I actually kind of think it fits in that bracket at the moment, but again, I don't think it's too much punishment to take, for example, 2 Dawns. And I think arguably you could possibly at the moment take 3, maybe, possibly. However, I don't think you should be able to. I think maybe you should be able to take 1, I reckon, right? I think maybe you should be able to take 1 Rogel Dawn. Not because you can't take more, just because the points is so intense that you go, if I take more than 1, I'm going to really struggle to fit the rest of the rounded stuff that I need to deal with everybody else's rounded list. Okay. One of the things that concerns me about detachments in 10th edition is the fact that if they do it like they did in Horus Heresy had a huge problem with the Dreadnought detachment, where you could just take Dreadnoughts. And I'm hoping they don't fall down that same trap. I'm hoping that there are detachments that don't just let you take tanks with no punishment. You need punishment. That's because Joe had to be bullied into setting up memberships in the first place. Yeah, but he deserves the memberships, Reckless, as well, right? Because he works fucking hard. He does a great job as well. It's not in their interest to achieve perfect balance. The releases are cyclical. It's what keeps the game alive and interesting. So, to be honest with you, Smiler Maniac as well, it's also not in their best interest to have perfect balance, because that's how they cycle through selling model kits. I know it sounds cynical.
T10 Pasta DES.
excuse me, Dave, I don't think you're going to get Toughness 10 Custodies. I know it seems quite cynical, but if they can change the power level of units frequently and rotate them through...
The game isn't lore accurate, and we just have to accept it.
I think the game's never going to be lore accurate, though, if I'm honest. Like, and I don't know if it can be lore accurate. Because lore accurate, you would have a Toughness 10 Custody.
Fire dragons shooting out of a wave serpent? Smile.
I wonder if wave serpents will have hatches. Doesn't logically make sense for a wave serpent to have a hatch, unless they're literally hanging out the back door. Shit, but maybe they'll give them a hatch. I think rhinos make sense because they've got the two doors on top that come open, right? So I think that makes sense that they could have a firing platform rule. Don't think wave serpents should have firing platform. But then things like Harlequin's boats and Drakari boats should have firing platform. But yeah, in terms of perfect balance, I agree with you. It's not in their best interest. But one of the main reasons why I think that is because they can use things like FAQs, updates, balance, data states, etc. to cycle through what's good and bad in the name of balance. And I sound like I'm being cynical right now, and I'm not, because I don't necessarily blame them. But for the sake of balance, and then this unit that sold really, really well, well, they don't need to sell so many anymore, but this unit hasn't sold so well, now it's really, really good. And they talk about the fact that they look at the data for what people are taking to GTs and taking to events and taking to majors, and they go, well, we noticed that no one's taking Unit X. And why is that? So we looked at Unit X and worked out why it wasn't so good. So we've made Unit X better because we want to improve balance. And I'm sure they do want to improve balance. I'm sure that's not a false statement. What they will have also noticed is they're not selling many of Unit X. And so they make their points cheaper, or they make their rules slightly better. And suddenly everyone goes out and buys Unit X. How many times do we see a balanced data slate drop or a new Codex drop and a specific unit sold out immediately? Immediately. It's not bad business for GW to be sold out of a model range, is it, to be fair? Apart from when it takes them forever to get it back in stock. Thank you for the dono, Chris. You're a legend. Right? So apart from when it takes them forever to get it back in stock, it's not a bad business model to be selling out of things. Selling out of things is good. You want to be just on the... As a business, you want to be just on the cusp of selling out all the time. Just on the cusp. That means your production is just enough that you're not actually selling out and there's no product available when there is high demand. But equally, you don't have hundreds of thousands of pounds or dollars sat in networking capital and shelves that aren't shifting. That's a perfect business model. Just on the cusp of selling out at all times. Okay? But we have to remember that they're probably... I mean, ultimately, someone said... I think I've just seen it, actually. I think someone just said, I thought GW was a model company, not a rules company. They are a model company, not a rules company. But they'll use rules to hide behind decisions, potentially, that will increase sales. Which is fine. I want them to make money. But they have to be careful about not pissing customers off. Talking about not pissing customers off, actually. Slight caveat now, team. Slight tangent. Talking about not pissing customers off. How many people tried to buy the Lion or Dante and couldn't? How many people? I've got thoughts on this. I've got feelings on this. Thank you so much, Lara, for the gifted membership, you fucking legend. Love you. Up to 553. Only 47 to go to hit 600 for the night. Come on. Not 600 for the night, but to hit 600. And then on Wednesday, we can work to 700. And then Friday, 800. And then... the next Wednesday will be 900, and then the next Friday will be 1,000, and that's the month done, right? Liam, you currently have more viewers than Titans. Yeah, but they're playing Marvel Crisis Protocol, Carl. Does anyone really care about Marvel Crisis Protocol? GW is a make money at all costs company. Yeah, I mean, and that's the reputation that we don't want them to have in it, really. Couldn't even get on the website, says Paul. Yeah, I know, right. Honestly, I couldn't, says Christios. Balance is not game. Balance is Wales. Balance too, yeah. Lion was a nightmare. Like, I have to be honest, right?
10th supplies meeting demand in time for 11.
Thanks, Dave. I've got to be honest, right? I think, personally, there's been a couple of occurrences where this has happened lately. The Lions release was pretty disgusting. Sold out on independent retail websites within a minute. Games Workshop's website, multi-billion pound company website, crashed. Traffic was so heavy, the website crashed. And I just kept getting an error code. And I was lucky enough to not have to go and buy one because they sent me a lion model. I have one here that I'm painting. I'm actually painting, people. So I'm actually painting the lion up at the moment, right? So they sent me one to paint, and he's beautiful, and I'm very, very grateful. But fuck me, they sent the lion to billions of content creators to promote it. Great. But then they didn't manage to have enough in stock for people to actually buy it. What's the point in content creators promoting a model if the company can't fucking meet the demand? It's just not really good enough. It's not. And we, you know, when did someone's just said here about waiting for 8-bound. When did the World Eaters come out? We still haven't seen their Combat Patrol box yet. This is not good enough from a company this size. If you're going to generate the kind of hype that they tried to generate and wanted to generate from the Lion, and there was a lot of hype, and let's not forget that they swiftly kicked in a circle in the nuts 2 days before they actually dropped in for pre-order, at least make sure you can meet demand. And not only that, there are lion models on eBay right now that are photos taken from people's dining room tables. So who's selling that? And if that's a previewer, he should be off the preview list immediately. It's my opinion. It's my opinion. It's not good enough. It's not good enough. Dante and the Lion gone in seconds. And the thing is, when are we going to get him back? All of those beautiful people that are Dark Angels fans out there have been waiting for a Dark Angels Lion for forever, who haven't got one now because maybe they were working, maybe they were busy, maybe they just couldn't get on the fucking website because it crashed.
Anyone got some of the mate band kicking about?
And they couldn't get on the website because it's crashed. Thank you, by the way, Plummy Plum, for your first ever super chat. What a legend. Right, anyone who couldn't get on the website because it fucking crashed, and they now are Dark Angels fans. They've been Dark Angels fans for life because these people do exist, and they're not suddenly Dark Angels fans because of the Lion, and they couldn't get their Primark. What they now don't know is when the hell he's going to come back in stock either. And all they've got from GW, all they've got down from GW is he'll be available to buy on his own soon. It's not really good enough, is it? It's not really good enough. If you know it's going to be this popular, made to order, exactly able. They've done it before, they should do it again. Got Dante Just. Well done, Carl. I would have loved to get the box, but think the money will go to the upcoming Seraphon box. Well, I mean, arguably, the better value will be when he comes out on his own and he's not a box with 3 Blade Guard in that aren't anything different than 3 standard Blade Guard, to be honest with you. Like, I think that's probably the better purchase for most people. But, you know, we started positive and sadly fell on the moaning hill again. It's not moaning hill, Gaz. It's not being on a fucking moaning hill at all. It's calling out a company when they carry out bullshit. One thing I've always promised is that we would always be honest. I love the vehicle rules. The vehicle rules are super cool. I loved almost all of the weapon rules we talked about on Friday. When they pull the kind of bullshit that they pulled with the Lion and yesterday, I'm going to call them out on it. It's not good enough. And when you've got product for sale on eBay or from someone's dining room table...
I wanted to buy the novel for the Lion. Was taking care of honeydew list. Got to the computer late and was already sold out. We'll get it in paperback, I guess. Just pod that I am going to have to dodge Lorvids now.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Neil. It's sad. But one of the things I've always said on the channel, is I will always be honest with my opinions. I won't just be a GW simp because they send me product, and I won't just hate on GW because it typically gets more likes. I won't do either of those things. This is a contrasting stream. At the start, I'm actually super positive about vehicles on the whole. I like the idea that a tank can be terrifying and we can get almost things like Tiger Fear that exist in 40k. But what happened with the Lion? What happened with 8-bound?
8-bound still not back in stock. Lion will be back in stock after 10th. Most probably they are making 10th edition boxes now at full speed.
But when they do things like the Lion and they do things like 8-bound, it's just not good enough. And the thing is, it's almost like, right, maybe I'm wrong here. I don't know the inner workings of GW, but it's almost like they're releasing things, funny old thing, they're releasing things to sell quicker than they can maintain demand. So stop releasing. Fulfill the demand that's already there. It's as company practice goes, I don't know how sustainable this is. Or how much patience the community has to continue to watch this happen and then see him on eBay. How much was the Lion box if you bought him from GW? I didn't see. I didn't look. I couldn't get on the website, so I have no idea what the cost was. Lion's available on Forge World. I mean, he's not a bad Forge World model. I think the 40k one's nicer, but he's not a bad 12 model. How much was the Lion box? Tell me, people. Don't forget the Farsight debacle too. Oh, yeah. Oh, my God, yeah. What was he? With 3 Blade Guard, what was he? Like 65 quid? Or did they wildly overcost it? 65 seems reasonable. Imagine they've had major issues with demand growth over COVID period. Maybe, but we're kind of out of COVID now, Horace. That's the problem. 65. Okay, so he was £65 and he's on eBay for over 100 already. And the box is on, this is the thing, right? The box is on someone's dining room table. Like, I don't know. I hope they're investigating that. How the hell is someone selling him on eBay on their dining room table for over £100 already when he went up for 65 quid on pre-order this last Saturday? This isn't like someone ordered it on Saturday, saw how quickly he sold out, it turned up like, say, next Saturday, Sunday, after the actual release date, and then they put it on eBay. It's already on eBay on someone's dining room table. The problem is that the community in general has shown infinite patience with Sky. I mean, let's be honest with you, right? GW are incredibly lucky at how devoted, loyal, and patient their customers are. But with the emergence of things like 3D printing, etc., I wonder how long this patience is going to last. If I'm honest with you. Are they having production problems? No idea, Sean, if I'm honest with you. I haven't got a clue. Haven't got a clue. Tim, thank you for the gifted membership. Did I catch that one already? I think I caught that one already. Nordos, thank you for the gifted 1. Monarch, thank you for the gifted 5. That's 7 more to add to our total to get us to 560. 40 to go, chat, with 8 minutes.
It's almost like GW should have some decent demand planners, or at least ones that can better judge what will and won't be popular. BT's box versus Lion.
BT's box versus Lion.
Farsight was on eBay even with pre-order in the name, 30 minutes after it sold out.
Yeah, it's pretty disgusting, isn't it, Scott, to be honest with you. I mean, and the thing is, when we talk about, Ziggy, you talk about they should have some decent demand planners.
This super chat would have been spent on Kazran if they were available.
Well, I'm grateful, thanks, Gifty, at least. At least you get value for money here. You would think when you talk about like stock planners, demand planners, like sometimes I get it, if I'm honest. Sometimes I get them miscalculating. I do, honestly. But when it's something as monumental as the Lion and something that they've hyped as much as they hyped the Lion, and it's sold out in minutes, like less than 5 minutes, and the website crashed. Like, I think their website needs looking at because it crashes too frequently as well. The Black Templars box, which no one bought. I've got a few. Going. I mean, I picked them up cheap after the fact because I'm sending them to Siege now. But or the big one for demand, right, is dare I say this word, Dominion. Dominion, the fastest selling AOS box of all time that I think is still on sale in some places. but the Lion is a swing and a miss. Like, he was always going to be incredibly popular. He was always going to be incredibly popular. And they clearly weren't even close to having the correct number of demand, because I would suggest that 80% plus of the people that I've spoken to have not been able to get their hands on one. Right? That's my gut feeling. About 80% plus of people that wanted one couldn't get one, which is really bad.
The Lion is currently bidding at £350 plus on eBay.
Scalpers. And I think there is legally something that GW can put in place to stop anything that's brand new being resold on eBay. But the problem they have is policing it and enforcing it, right? And I feel like that's probably just a legal fight, an enforcement cost that just isn't worth it to them. Although I saw Talk say already in chat, GW is the Scalpers. I mean, I wouldn't be massively surprised if some of their shop staff have got them on eBay. I'm not saying that's what's happening, obviously. Big shout out to Slam Sector for gifting 20. You absolute fucking legend. Thanks, man. I appreciate it. Putting us 20 away from 600 for the night. Well, 600 so far, right? not for the night. That would be silly. Just thought we'd set a little mini stream target of 600, and then on Wednesday, at end of Wednesday, we want to be at 700. End of Friday, 800. Right, it's a plan. Just get that 1,000 every single month. End of the year, take over the world. Big studio, multiple staff, clone Joe. Right, it'd be great. I could clone Joes and then sell them to people to do their plastic piles of shame. Right. You think they learn from Wizards of the Coast on how bad pre-order launches go? The thing is that people are very loyal to GW on the whole, aren't we? I've called them out for loads of bullshit in the past with things that they've done, and granted, on occasion they have in fact addressed it and gone, we did this, people didn't like it, we stopped doing it. And that's really positive. Like, I think that's a good move on the whole. But we still go back. I think there's some other companies out there that brands that I'm semi-loyal to, that if they had treated their fan base the way that perhaps GW are renowned for treating their fan base, people probably wouldn't go back. Problem we have is, to give GW kudos, for me personally, they just make the best models out there. And for me personally, they still make my favourite tabletop game. I've played Bolt Action, I've played a little bit of Star Wars Legion, I've played a bit of Battletech, I've played a bit of Magic. For me personally, GW still make my favourite tabletop game, and they just flat make the best models. If we don't think about Desolation Marines, right? If we don't think about that. Sorry for this, but when you back on DMZ next? Tomorrow, lunchtime. About 12:30 tomorrow on the gaming channel, !gaming. We won't ever put it on DMZ on this channel again. It was an experiment. It was also a cringy fucking sub grab that didn't really work. Right? But if you want to come hang out with us on Call of Duty Season 3, DMZ, !gaming, click on that. It's me, it's Joe, it's War Hipster. We play every Monday afternoon. There will be a couple of Mondays coming up in the near future where we won't be on because I've got other things to do, and that channel doesn't make any money at all. I just do it for fun, right? I had a lot of friends that worked for Games Workshop here in the US for years. They ended the black box program where they sent pre-release models to stores to display because the staff sold the stuff. I'm not surprised, genuinely though. I'm not surprised because I don't know if it's the same in the US, but I've heard, and this is pure speculation, but I've heard GW staff aren't paid particularly well. So there's a possibility that they could instead go, well, I'll just put it on eBay instead of selling it in my shop. I'll buy it at cost price, which is probably cheaper because I believe they get cheaper costing than most of us normal people. I think they get extra discount basically for being staff members, right? So I'll buy it at cost. I'll put it on eBay. Sweet. Lore is what makes 40k so good and why we always come back. 100% Drew. I love the narrative. I've said this a million times before, right? I'm a fantasy man normally. Lord of the Rings over Star Wars, that sort of thing. But the 40k lore, I love it. I disagree. I also play FIFA and no one treats their customer base with less respect or expects more valueless spending from the electronic. Oh, EA are the devil, right? DBSD. EA are just flat the devil. James Nero, thank you for the 5. You hero. 15 people. 15. Can we do 15 in 2 minutes? Can we do 15 in 2 minutes? Challenge the community. Go.
It seems like 9 times out of 10 they ignore problems, but then get praise for the 1 out of 10 times they own up. That's what's frustrating about it.
I think in recent times they've done more owning up than I've ever seen them do before. And I'm not defending them, but you have to, as a business. This is going to make me sound a little bit like a simp, which I've already said I'm not, right? But as a business, GW isn't a agile little speedboat or a little yacht, right? As a business, GW is a gigantic tanker. And in this particular space, it's arguably one of the biggest tankers that exists, right? It's the biggest, okay? And to turn that tanker and make change takes a lot of time and effort. And so they have in recent times been a lot more honest with things that have happened. They're taking the piss out themselves a lot more. And I kind of respect that, right? I do genuinely really respect it because it's a change. And I don't think it's enough yet, if I'm honest with you, Ziggy. I don't think it's enough yet. but it's going in the right direction at least. And for that, I'm more positive. Does that make sense? Like, it's if we don't praise them, the times that they do the little nice things that make us feel the right way. If we don't praise them when they do those little things, then we run the risk of them going, well, we tried and no one really responded to it, right? So I feel like tanker or wanker. That's a weird way of pronouncing good W's. Love you lot. But so I feel like we do kind of have to praise them. It's almost like positive reinforcement, right? You've done a good thing and I'm going to praise you. And positive reinforcement when you train, like Pavlovian conditioning, when you train animals, when you train dogs, is they strictly not supposed to punish the bad but praise the good. Now, I still think we give them some punishment for the bad, and sometimes some people are far too keen and eager to just hate on GW, right? Some people are far too keen to just hate on them. It's very, 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 very easy to make GW out to be the bad guy. And some people, their content is built on hating GW, and I won't do that. But I will absolutely call them out when I don't like something, and I will also praise them when they do something right. And you are correct with what you're saying. You know, 9 times out of 10 they ignore problems, but they used to 10 out of 10 times ignore problems. So it's a step in the right direction. And maybe next time we can get to 2 out of 10 times. 8 out of 10 times they ignore it, and then 7 out of 10 times, and maybe we can get to a point where they address all the problems straight away. Maybe. Thank you so much, by the way, Crisis, Scott Costello, Alex Randall, David Gaither, and Plastic Paint, who all gifted 1. Then a big shout out to Jill, you legend, who gifted a full 5. You people are beautiful. We're just going to miss the 600 mark, but I appreciate you all. You're all amazing. If you've been gifted a membership tonight, if you have got yourself a member and you've not been a member tonight before, if you're watching this on demand and oh, I got given a member during this particular stream, !Discord, !Discord, come and hang out with us in the Great Hall server. It's full of amazing people. Tuesday nights is members only chat, so make sure you're there for Tuesday. I think it's me and Joe, and I think B team's on the deck. I think Luce is on the deck this Tuesday because we don't have a Brom or an Eddie. Thursday, Eddie does return, and I get to play against his Necrons. That'll be fun for me. Hopefully by Wednesday, we'll have even more rules to talk about from 10th edition 40k. We nearly got to 600 for April members for the end of the night. Look at you beautiful people. If you haven't already, please make sure you smash that like button for us. 199 right now that I can see. Hit that subscribe if you haven't already, and smash that bell notification icon if you want to be notified every single time we go live in the future. If you're in the Great Hall Discord server, if you are a member, Discord also notifies you when we go live. Right? So, you know, that's a great way of being notified. In fact, I think the Discord bot is more reliable than the YouTube notification, I think. Just so you know. So, you know, nearly May. It is nearly May. I've been looking at buying a new barbecue at some point in the near future. Not that I can afford to, quite frankly, but it's the sun's coming. I like being outside in nice weather. It's weird being a wargamer in the summer, right? Luce is better than Brom's team. The Great Hall Gathering is coming up in a few weeks. ! GHG. Thanks, guys. Oh, you've already done it. You can get yourself tickets and come and hang out with us at Element Games. So you people are amazing. David Gaither, you hero for 5 gifted memberships, putting us at that 600. And then Scott comes in with another 5. You people, stop now. That's enough. That's plenty. That's plenty. No more. No more. Oh, hang on. Not 6,054. You amazing humans. Thank you so much. Please make sure you come hang out in the Great Hall Discord server. I'm waiting for her to announce Ziggy's super chat before we say goodbye. I was supposed to be off stream 3 minutes ago, so Luce and I could watch another episode of a series called... What's it called? What's it called? What's it called? We started watching a BBC series called Blue Lights.
I know, I'm former GW retail, but they did live uncredited me from an article and pretended it never happened. So maybe I'm just biased. Smiley face.
I mean, I get it though. If you've had that kind of experience, I totally get it. And I really appreciate the super chats as well. Don't forget, right, 10% of all of our super chat revenue gets gifted to charity. Models for Heroes, !M4H. If you've got piles of shame, plastic shame that you don't want anymore, !M4H. And you can go to their donate page, where you can donate money because they're a charity, but you can also donate unbuilt kits. Donate unbuilt kits, and then they will come and they won't come and do anything actually. But what they'll do is they'll use them for therapy, essentially, modelling therapy for people. And they look after armed forces, ex-armed forces, emergency services, etc. They're amazing people. !M4H. I see someone type !M4H, and then we can go. Someone will do it for me. There we go. Slam Sector did it. What a hero. right? Use that link. You can check out models for heroes. What about the fact? There's no fact. Luce isn't here. It was a pure 10th edition rules stream. She was like, do you want me to do that there? I was like, I mean, you can, but you're probably going to get bored again because we're talking about 10th edition rules. We're riding the 10th edition wage right now. Thank you, everybody that hung out for us this Sunday. I'll try and do a couple more of these, but they won't become weekly. For example, this next weekend, I'm at the GT that we run at Factorum every single month. I think there's still some tickets available if you want to come hang out and play 5 games of 40k this weekend, Saturday and Sunday at Factorum in Warminster. Next Sunday after that will be my wedding anniversary. April the 30th is my wedding anniversary, so I won't be live for that either because we shall be at a nice restaurant somewhere where I can treat Luce right. With no children, right? 2 streams without a fact. Disgusting. Okay, someone in chat want to give me a good fact? Stick a fact on a colourful postcard. Let's end on a colourful postcard fact. And then we'll turn it off. I'll wait for you. I'll wait for you, chat. Sunday after that, however, we could possibly do another Sunday show. We'll try and do a couple more of them. YouTube actually tells me that Sunday evenings is the time when my audience is most active. So 6:06. Oh, Hungry Bert! I missed it. Thank you, man. What a hero. And then he super chatted to tell me as well. What a legend.
Oi, 606.
Good night, everyone. Great chat as always. Been great finding the stream. Really appreciate it. And Ziggy, you're amazing. Thank you for hanging out with us. Thank you for being a prolific super chatter after recently finding the stream as well. I really, really appreciate it, man. Thank you so much. But come on, someone give me a fact. Anyone. Because otherwise Hazard's going to be upset, right? Frogs swallow with their eyes. That's not true. That's not true, is it? The sky is blue because of light refraction through nitrogen. I mean, I think that's true. Fact, Chuck Norris would have killed Horus. That is a fact. That's a fact I feel like we could end on, even if it's not on a big colourful postcard. Right? Right, you beautiful humans. Oh, hang on. Scott's got a fact. That looks like a fact to me, Scott, as well.
Fun fact, math sucks.
Beautiful. Right, everybody. We'll see you on tomorrow, actually. We can see you on the gaming channel, !gaming. If you want to come hang out with us, we'll play some DMZ tomorrow afternoon. Otherwise, on the 40k channel, it'll be Tuesday, 1:30 for the Liam and Joe show, 7:30 for live 40k members only chat. Wednesday for the 40k show. Thursday for another live game of 40k at 7:30. Friday for 40k After Dark. How much content do we put out? How much? I did 2 more chats to come through. Like there's queued up now. This is when she goes on strike when I'm trying to turn off.
Bananas are slightly radioactive because of their potassium content.
Does Patreon member count towards some number? It doesn't, I'm afraid. I know why. Thanks, though, if you're a Patreon member. That thing's still going?
Fun fact, you might still be it from an unfinished game of tag.
I almost definitely am. I wasn't the popular kid at school, Slam Sector. Thanks for your first ever super chat. Thank you for gifting 20 today. You're an amazing human. You're all amazing humans, actually. I love you all dearly. Hope to see you on all of our streams throughout the week. DMZ tomorrow on the gaming channel. 2 streams on Tuesday, 1 stream on Wednesday, 1 stream on Thursday, 1 stream on Friday. Never enough, not enough. I'm sorry. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.